It's Hot 105.1. It is PK, and with me in the studio, I have the one, the only Chris Jericho from Fozzy. What's up, dude?
One and only. Thank goodness for that, man. Can you imagine if there was more of me around? How annoying would that be?
I mean, you don't want to have like a clone of yourself to like deal with all the other things that you got going on.
Yeah, it's funny. If we could get to that point where you could clone Chris Jericho, but then I would probably just take on even more gigs and jobs. So, but yeah, here in Louisville, we're excited. Mercury Ballroom, our big return with Fozzy, and it's going to be a great show tonight. We're excited.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I know that there were some limited tickets.
There's tickets left.
Yeah,
it's going to be packed, but there's tickets left for tonight on a blustery, rainy day. What better thing to do than come rock with the Foz?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're inside, so you don't even have to deal with any of the weather. It's going to be a good time, but definitely looking forward to the show. And it's been a hot second since you guys put out new music. I mean, the new album Boombox has been out for a while, for just about a year, but 5 years in between with the new album. So,
well, I mean, it took us so long. We were calling it Chinese Fozocracy but you keep in mind that there was a pandemic right in the middle of it. So the first single, Nowhere to Run, came out in September of 19. And at one point we were going to call the record 2020, kind of a takeoff on 1984 Van Halen, also 2020 Vision. And then 2020 happened. It's like nobody wants to call anything 2020. Don't want to remember any of that. So we also didn't want to release a record during the pandemic because you can't tour on it. You can't come into the studio and talk to wonderful people such as yourself. So it did take a while, but once again, when you have a 2-year kind of a break for the entire world is one of the reasons why.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I know, especially when you have that downtime. I mean, did that give you more opportunity to write more and add to the album?
Not really, because we had most of the stuff done before the lockdown. But we knew it was a great record. It was also very important for us because Judas was such a big hit. I mean, it just went gold about 6 months ago.
Congrats.
And we knew we had to follow. Thanks, man. We knew we had to follow up with something huge, though, and so we didn't want to release something that we couldn't follow up on. I mean, if you think about, like, for example, AC/DC with Power Up, it's a great record, but they just released it in the middle. And I mean, obviously AC/DC is different. They can go tour on it whenever they want, but we didn't want that to happen. So we sat on it. You said it's been out for almost a year. Prior to that, it was ready for a year.
Wow.
Like, it was mixed, mastered, ready to go. We were just waiting for the right time. So by the time it came out, you don't even know, are these songs any good? Or like, are people going to like them, or what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So it was a huge success. I mean, we released 3 singles that all went top 10, and then 3 more of the songs we play live, and then the rest of the songs that kind of end up in the Fozzy dead song graveyard. So I'm wondering in the future if releasing a full record is the way to go. I think what we're going to try and do is just release a single every 3 or 4 months and keep the product always there and not waste songs, because that's what you're doing when you put out a great record. You spend so much time on every one of these songs and meticulously creating them, and they're your children. Then they just never really, unless you buy the record or listen to the record, there's only so many songs you can play live from a new album when you have as many albums as we do. So that might be something we will look for in the future, just doing kind of one song at a time. Yeah,
I mean, the music industry is kind of going that route
changed,
a little
right?
bit. Yeah, it's so different from back when you guys started in the late 90s. So, but I mean, hey, like, if we can get new music every couple of months or so, like,
that seems like the way to go, right? And then every song you can release as a single and give it its chance to go where it's going to go. I mean, obviously, I'm from the generation where you would go, the new Iron Maiden's coming out. You'd go down and take the bus every Saturday. Is it out yet? No. And then finally you walk through and you hear the music and you see the wall of Maiden records. I mean, that was such a great moment, in a kid's life, but things have changed. No kid knows what a record store is now. You just go on Spotify and listen to the songs that you want to hear. So I think that, you got to roll with the times, and obviously putting out a new record is a piece of art, but I think song by song you can do the same. Plus you get a different cover for everyone. You got to put out a cover. So I think it just adds to, once again, more of a marketing plan, and I think it's just better for the music itself as well.
Hell yeah. Well, Chris Jericho from Fozzy in the studio, Mercury Ballroom tonight, 7 o'clock, doors going to be opening, limited tickets available. And I mean, so just adding to the list of all the things that you do, I mean, rock star, Hall of Fame wrestler, actor, author, you've done theater, comedy, radio, podcast hosting, you were just on The Masked Singer.
Yeah.
I mean, you've kind of done all of it. So how do you find the time just to kind of split between project to project, or is it always constantly like, okay, I got these 3 things going on and I can do all 3 at once?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is that way. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be in a rock band and I wanted to be a wrestler. And then when both of those things happened and started to kind of go to the next level, then suddenly you become fearless.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing that I can't try or go for. So, but you also have to keep all the plates spinning, but there's a lot of stuff that I turn down as well. So, everything that I do has to be something that I'm interested in, have a passion for. If it's not something I think I can make really good, then I won't do it. You know, I don't do things for money. Thankfully, I do things that are intriguing or creative, creatively fulfilling. So that's helped out a lot. And, you know, like for example, working with AEW, we only work once a week essentially, just on Wednesdays. So when we tour with Fozzy, like right now, we do 5 shows in a week, and we take Tuesday, Wednesday off. So if I want to go pop into Dynamite for whatever story we're telling, for example, I was on Dynamite on Wednesday in St. Louis. Then Thursday, go right back on the road again. We were in, where were we last night? Pittsburgh. And today we're in Louisville, and tomorrow we're in Columbus, and the cycle goes on and on and on. But when you love doing something, you can always find out a way to make it work. And so a lot of times too, like if you're talking about a podcast, like Talk is Jericho, I do that during the day on show days because there's really nothing to do. You get to the venue at 2:00. We have our VIP at 3:30, and then you're basically off until 9:30 showtime. So that's a good time to do a podcast, or if I'm writing something or working on whatever it is I'm working on. So you can kind of utilize your spare time wisely. You can get a whole lot more done.
I love it. And I will say, I know that, so your dad played in the NHL.
He did.
Did you ever have any aspirations to be a hockey player?
Well, I just wasn't very good, to be honest with you. But right from an early age, I can remember watching wrestling when I was about 7 with my grandma and saying, I really want to do that. And then I've been playing in bands since I was 13. So I was okay at hockey, but I basically quit in my senior year just to concentrate more on band practice, rehearsing and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I just didn't have the passion for it. I played. I grew up in Canada, so everyone plays hockey. But I think even my dad knew pretty early on. It's like, yeah, he tries, but he's just not that good. You know, Ted Irvin's kid, he must be great. It's like, no, not really. Not really.
I love it. Well, what do you think the next mountain to climb is going to be for you? Or, you know, I mean, like I said, so many things you've done. I mean, you know, you're just going to keep adding.
It's not like I'm looking for extra things to do, things that come my way are interesting. Like next week, I'm going to Canada to film a Hallmark movie, Country Hearts. So that'll be fun. But I think just from a Fozzy standpoint, like when Judas went gold, to have a gold record in this day and age is huge.
Yeah.
And that took the band to the next level. You know, that song gets played in hockey arenas, in football stadiums, in soccer stadiums over in the UK. So you have that elusive hit song. You need to build upon that. So I think, you know, this tour is our biggest U.S. tour we've ever done. And I think that shows there's some great momentum for the band. So the next step is just to continue to build Fozzy. And we have an interesting business model. We don't really open for anybody. We just headline, and we have a really cool way of doing it to where obviously the goal is to do arenas and stadiums and all the other stuff. And if AC/DC called us tomorrow to play, Metallica calls to do the 72 Seasons tour, we'll be there. Yeah. But otherwise, you know, we do really good playing, you know, the Mercury ballrooms and continuing to build. And, you know, tonight, if it's not going to be sold out, it'll be pretty close. We've never had that before. So you just continue to build the momentum, and then the buzz grows as well. So we've got a great buzz about Fozzy. So that's my big goal, is just to continue to grow our band.
I love it. And, you know, for anybody who's heading out to the show, you know, seeing Fozzy for the first time, what one word would you say describes a Fozzy show? Party. Fun. Yeah, it's a rock and roll party for sure. And we really take great pride in when people come to our shows, they get involved. There's a lot of crowd participation and singing and chanting and that sort of a thing. And I think anybody that's seen Fozzy understands that it is fun. And if you haven't, you're going to have a great time. And if you come not wanting to have a great time, we will force you to have a great time. So yeah, it really is just that we take the vibe of, you know, 1981 Van Halen and take it into the modern era. And then that's exactly what we do. We really expect a lot of our audiences in the best possible way. There's not a lot of dead air at a Fozzy show. Fozzy at first might seem like a strange name, but it is the easiest name to chant
in rock and roll. So Fozzy chants are running amok every time we play, which is great as well.
I love it. Well, looking forward to the show. And I got one more question for you, and it's one that you might have to kind of think about for just a second. But, when you're putting together your set list for all of these headlining shows, there's always the staple songs that are in there. I mean, Of course, you're going to put Judas in there. And, there's always the ones that make the cut. What's the first song that comes to mind that you wish you could put in the set list, but you just never have enough time to put it in?
Well, I mean, the good news is that we really do have time, because you mentioned you have to play, I think at this point, there's probably 10 staples. But another good thing is, Iron Maiden doesn't have to play Run to the Hills. I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers didn't play Under the Bridge when I saw them a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple songs we're not doing Painless or Sandpaper on this run. But that's okay, because that enables us to put a couple other songs in the set, like, for example, God Pounds His Nails from Chasing the Grail. We hadn't played that in years, or Spider in My Mouth from Sin and Bones. And it fits perfectly to switch the setup, because we do tour a lot in the States. We do tour a lot in the UK. So you don't want to go with the same tunes every time. It's okay to Painless is our second biggest song, both in chart position and in YouTube views for the video. And we thought, let's just take it out of the set this time. And that way, when we put it back in, it'll be even bigger, and you can put a Spider in My Mouth in there. So there's those types of tunes. Obviously, like a song like Storm the Beaches, which is 15 minutes long, an epic, Iron Maiden Halloween Rush style epic about D-Day. It'd be fun to play that, but that's a solid 15 minutes out of your set, so you probably could never do that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one just to get through for 15 straight minutes.
I mean, who really wants to see that from Fozzy? If we were Rush or Iron Maiden, like I said, you appreciate those 50-minute epics, but I think our fans, we've become a radio band now, and that's a much cooler place for us to be in.
Yeah, well, looking forward again to the show. Mercury Ballroom tonight. Fozzy going to be taking over. Chris Jericho in the studio. Thanks again for stopping by, man. Looking forward to partying tonight.
It's a rock and roll party in Louisville tonight. You can't call it Louisville. It's right. Louisville.
You got to get it right on stage. I mean, they probably won't throw bottles or anything.
Well, they might. You got to get it right. You got to show the respect for the pronunciation of the city.
Thank you. Appreciate that for sure. Chris, thanks for taking the time to stop by, man.
Killer, man. We'll see you guys tonight.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah.